All right, welcome back to another episode. We got a bunch of stuff going on in the shop, so come check it out. All right, so we have this Twin Turbo 4-seater Tatum sand car. We're doing a new Holley intake, Holley throttle body, bunch of plumbing with all this Earls Crimp style hose fittings. So we're changing up the intercooler setup. It's got CBR performance intercooler that sandwiches in between the Holley intake, and this is the radiator for this. So we got our water pump here. We got our lines all set. I'm just measuring up these. So we're gonna crimp these, get all this done, and then we'll top this thing off with fluids, and it's pretty much ready to go. All right, so here we have my little plumbing station. We got this Earls hose crimper direct from Earls, and then we run all their fittings as well. You can see this is how the fitting starts, and then you got this crimp collar, and this machine crimps this around the hose, which I'll show you. And this is also a hose cutter I got from Earls. All this is just dedicated to only plumbing. So now we do all this in-house. We plumb all our vehicles. We've probably done, since I got this,4 or 5 trucks with 0 issues. So it's just another, better way to do it. In my opinion, this is the better way to do it with the crimp fittings instead of using like the reusable, just, regular normal fittings. So yeah, I'll show you how this thing works. Putting the dash 12 dies in. So every size hose has its own set of dies, and then it uses the same top collar for every one. Here you can see we got the hose end installed on the hose with the crimp collar. So the crimp collar, this gold part, is actually the part that crimps the hose onto the fitting. So you can see this crimps the hose right there. So that's what it looks like with not installed. Usually like to take some of this Earls lube, put it on the gold fitting to try to just reduce the, it'll crimp it, want to start making the anodize kind of come off on it or scratch or anything. So we just lube it up a little bit. So that goes in like that. Take this guy. Lock it down. Flush on the top. Lock it down right there. Safety first. Put the top collar in. Right there. We're at 340. Just hit this little guy. And there you have it. Hitting that switch is a lot easier than sitting there with 2 wrenches and, putting the reusable fittings together. And this hose is really, really flexible. Like you get pretty tight radiuses with it, and it's super light, so it's super nice to use this stuff. From just a quick Sharpie mark and mock-up, we've got our mark right there. That's where I'm gonna cut. So I'm just gonna put some of this tape centered over that mark and then cut it with our cutter here. Put that nice little tape on there. Put it in here like so. Just kind of roughly centered on there. Fire that up. I like to put these on before I take the tape off of here, just to get around all these little frays right here. Here we have a little hose expander. Just makes it a little easier to get these big fittings in there. Some of the other sizes, they go in a lot easier, but this one's a little tougher with the how big it is. Let's add some more of that Earls lube on there. Pretty easy. Push it in, give the little pullback on the sleeve. And there you go. Viola. That bride is so light. That bride is so light. Son of a bitch. Try to be serious. So again, same step as before. Add some lube. Straight ones are always a little easier, so you just pop it right through. Get that lined up. Holds itself. Another perfect crimp. And this is one of many hoses that I built for this car. I redid the power steering return, all the fuel lines are new. We even went overkill on all the breathers and vents for the valley and the valve cover to this breather can, dry sump to the breather can. They're all done in this same high quality hose. So this will probably last you years. Works a lot better than other stuff that I've used in the past, so that's why I just, do it right the first time with this stuff. So this will be the upper feed for the intercooler. It'll be somewhere like that, and this one goes straight in there. That's nice, clean routing. The intake will be right above it, and then this line will come up, meet with that one, go along to that. Water pump over there. So that'll be next. We're gonna run this one. What's nice about these, like, you can get swivel or non-swivel fittings. So no matter what you have, it doesn't matter on this one because it's a straight, but say you have a 90 and a 90 needs to point a different way, this can just spin around to wherever you need it to go. All right, we'll do the same zip tie deal we've showed you before, where we kind of do it like that, keep them isolated so they don't chafe on each other and so they don't heat transfer. Because we got hot going in one side and cold coming out the other, so I want to keep everything as efficient as possible. Viola. So this is the from the turbos to the intake. I made all this. We just bought all these bends from a Performance Tube. Just got a bunch of 90s, kind of placed everything in there. These aren't mirror image turbos, so it's a little different from left to right. It's not symmetrical. We made this pretty much merge right here, and then I cut it back, and I took a 4-inch round and kind of made it merge onto these, get a nice transition in here, and then the bottom's got the blow off. So basically this thing will just drop on. You gotta tuck it back in here, and then it'll just kind of drop in each turbo right there, but basically that's our intake setup right there. So another big thing we wanted this radiator to have enough airspace around it to be sufficient, and there was no room on the back of the car. The back of the car is pretty much this long, so it wasn't really that long. We couldn't fit it back here in a good spot. We couldn't fit it behind the fuel cell and have enough airspace around it to where I think it would work good enough. I didn't want to mount it like on top of the car, just kind of hanging out, so that's why we rebuilt the whole back half from here back, from there back, to get this thing down in here. We're gonna add some air scoops and stuff back here, but for now, this is pretty much getting bolted together as is, raw, so then he can take it out for a trip he's got coming up this weekend. So on this intake, you can see it's all aluminum, it's all TIG welded. I don't weld too much aluminum, so this was a fun little different thing to do for me, but I've never been happy with my aluminum welds, but this one, I'm very pleased with the outcome on this whole setup right here. So, just see, we learn every day. There's another cool new product, number 978 from this year. We got a new bumper that we've been doing for, actually this is the third one. The second one's on the truck over here. I'll show you in a little bit. But pretty cool, just simple, straightforward. I didn't want to add anything for your backup sensors or a tow hitch or anything else. I wanted it simple, straightforward, and clean because that's how I wanted it. And if you want to add your own backup sensor mounts and stuff like that, you can. But it's pretty much a universal bumper for 99 and up Chevy 1500s, 2500s. So with this bracket set up on the back, you can pretty much adapt this to any frame. So we designed this for the 14 and up, for 14 to 18 Silverado, but we've already mounted it on other model trucks. So it kind of works on everything. The tailgate, this pretty much matches the width of the tailgate. So it lines up perfect on pretty much every Silverado. But we went with a tube and plate design. Did an 1.5 inch here, 1.75 inch here, and this is all 4130. It's all TIG welded. Some nice caps on the end. And here's the top plate, and I'll show you there's another plate that goes on here that caps off this whole thing. And then it's got provisions for license plate, bolts here, and I just recommend running a frame with a light built into the frame, and then it looks clean. But I'll show you the one on the truck over here. So we did a aluminum plate on the top. We line X'd it all the way around, and then we made this little filler plate for the top, just with our logo in it, a couple cutouts, just to add some style to it. But you can see it lines up perfect with the tailgate on pretty much every Silverado from 1999. And then it tucks up nice and tight. Doesn't hang down at all. Looks clean. You can still get your foot in right here if you need to, for like a footstep. So this one we didn't add any light brackets or anything. Some of the other trucks will add some light brackets off of here, get some backup lights. Yeah, just a nice, straightforward, clean bolt-on bumper. Yeah, and while we're over here, this is a truck we just got back from Valley Customs. He did a complete color change, door jams, hours and hours of fiberglass and body work on this thing. So it used to be like that champagne color. We went to this gray color. But this thing was over there for like a month, so you haven't seen it in any of the videos. But it's, I think it's a 2004 GMC 2500 HD, and it's got the 6-liter gas engine, but it's not stock motor anymore. We'll get to that in a second. But we had Deaver custom make us some leafs. We built a bed cage for it. It's got ADV fenders front and rear. Toyo RT37s, and it's got Innovate simulated beadlock wheels. It's got a big 3.0 King 3-tube bypass in custom black anodized. We had the bed all line X'd. Obviously it's dirty right now. We'll get it all cleaned up before we get it to the owner. But just a nice clean daily driver. It's still got steps on it, and it's running our long travel kit for the 2001 to 2010 GM 2500 trucks. So this is we set up kind of like mid-travel. We got an 8-inch coilover, 3.0 in there. Then it's our full long travel kit, extended axles, Heim joint steering. We did a pretty straightforward shock hoop design. We might add a crossbar now that we got the motor back in. So that could be something we can just bolt on, add a simple crossbar to that. Let's run the same wheels all the way around. We built a custom bumper on it. Obviously everything's apart, can't really tell what it looks like, but we built a custom bumper. It runs I think a 5 or 6 light, 5 light KC Pro 6. And then there's a skid plate over there. That's how we do them all now, with the ovals with the logo in the one spot right there. But we just got this motor back from Maruzzi Race Motors. It's a 408 stroker built for boosts, and we got this Whipple on top here, so this thing will probably make 800 at the crank with this motor and supercharger setup. So for a daily driver, it's pretty ridiculous, but I'm sure I'll have some fun. But we're hoping to see like 550, 600 at the rear tires. So it's a pretty healthy setup. But yeah, not too bad for a daily driver. As you can see, it's kind of a mess right now. There's stuff not hooked up. These aren't coated yet. The fenders aren't on. So we took the fenders off because we didn't want to risk scratching them while we put the motor back in. We put the motor back in yesterday. So we should be firing it up today. We had to clearance a bunch of this for the tire to clear at full bump and full steer. So we're modifying the air box a little bit so it doesn't get into the tire. But yeah, these will be getting Line-X'd, and then once the truck's driving and running, we'll drive the truck over to Line-X, and they're gonna hit that firewall part right there. Give it a nice clean finished look, and then we're getting the insides of the fenders done like we always do. And then same with the bed sides. Those are gonna get done on the tops and on the insides. And then obviously the tailgate inside still doesn't get Line-X, but a lot of detail work put into this thing. And everything kind of flows nice. Everything's black and silver, and with the gray, it's just a nice, clean, classy daily driver. All right, so I get a lot of questions on like what welder do you use and settings and all that, like post a picture of a weld and be like, oh, what are your settings? Well, it's different for every single thing that I weld. I have different settings, but if you want to know what welder I have, this is it. I bought this on my 18th birthday 16 years ago, and then been using this one ever since, but it's got no like auto pulse or anything. We just do all that manually. So I got like 10 seconds of post flow. I run about 25 to 30 CFH. I run all these Furic cups. This is a FUPA 12. You can see I got a bunch of stick out on that one, and that's what it looks like after welding the whole inside of that guy right there. But yeah, nothing fancy, just a straightforward Miller Synchro Wave 250. And we have 2 other ones of these too. The other 2 are out in the shop, but they're all pretty much the same, and that's all we use. All right, see those bulkhead extension pieces I was talking about that tie into the front bulkhead? Let's see, which one do we have here? So basically, they will tie in. The bulkhead will come out here, and then the floor ties in out here. Goes back to the link pivots, but just got all these burnt up by themselves, and then we'll put them on the table next and attach them to the bulkhead right here. All right, so here we have our rear link pivot box. So this is another sub-assembly for the platform of the chassis, for the tube chassis truck. So basically, from the bulkhead extension I showed you, this will be flat on the table like that, and then goes forward to the front of the truck, and then rear of the truck. The cage will tie in up here. This upper link, lower link pivot. This is all boxed. Everything gets tied in. All inside welds there. Overlay plates here and here. And here, there'll be another tube here with another tube structure out here that's all boxed in, and then an overlay will go on after this is welded into the chassis. So here we have the other link pivot. You see I welded one side already. I let it fully cool, and then I pulled the spacer out of here. This one's still in. I'm gonna run this weld all the way to here, and then put this spacer back in to keep this from pulling. And then I'll pull this one out and weld this, and I got it set up on this little rim of aluminum. So I could weld all this, and the aluminum will act as a little heat sink, just to try to contain some of the heat in here to keep this from squeezing together too much. So these are for the tube chassis truck we're building. This will connect back to the link pivots. We have all fixtures set up for the table. So this is just mocked up on the table to show you what it'll look like. And we built 2 sets of these. Another set will get trimmed a little shorter and get tied into the stock frame on the gray truck over there. So this is the bulkhead for that. And he's working on another one right now. So that's number 3 right there. He's got that one about halfway done. And then and then we'll move on to 4 and 5, which are pretty much halfway done on the table over there as well. All right, on a previous episode, we asked you if you wanted to see a build breakdown of the Bugatti Max or the corporate cruiser. A lot of people said both, but the most of the votes were for the Bugatti Max. So tune in next week. We'll give you an in-depth look at the infamous Bugatti Max. You know why I gave you those glasses? Because you're running an LS. Look at that. He's got LS in the delivery truck. Later, Holmes.